indeed has a spinal tumor. I don't think it had anything to do with her, walk in the park or up the stairs. I think it was a
It's just a weird
coincidence.
coincidence in timing.
Yeah.
And it was probably what the other vet said when we took the other cancer out, and it just kind of.
So it's a good question. The question now becomes, well, is it a primary spinal tumor, or is it a metastasis from the other cancer? I will say that most tumors in this location of the spinal cord are primary spinal tumors.
So it was probably there already.
However, I actually do think this is more likely, even though it's unusual, I think it's more likely to be a metastatic lesion.
Because of how quick it happened, right?
Well, the timing of things, yes, but also because there's another lesion in her muscle, kind of around her right shoulder.
Which is where it seems the most pain is.
Yeah. Whether or not that's, that's something that I wouldn't necessarily expect to cause a whole lot of pain and discomfort, but it's hard to ignore. And so now we have, we know the mammary masses were there, right? And then, of course, we now have the lesion in the spinal cord that, of course, is her biggest issue. The one here in the shoulder is probably, it might be causing pain, but it's not causing, major disability. I mean, you could not have that muscle and you could still function. But unfortunately, I don't think we have any easy options
There's no
here.
way to treat it.
I mean, there are ways to attempt to treat it, but I don't think any of them make sense. We could, you'd have to, it would be a major spinal surgery, which she may or may not survive because of how deep in the spinal cord. This isn't something that's pressing on the spinal cord. This is something that's growing from within the spinal cord. So it'd be a very risky surgery. Granted, she's so severely affected, she can't get much worse short of needing to be on a ventilator like we talked about last week. But I can't, in good conscience, tell you that it makes sense to try to do that because I think, yes, we have evidence that this is in other parts of her body already, in which case, even if we got remarkably lucky and that was a successful surgery, I think these other lesions are going to create major problems for her. And so I would consider this, even though no one's biopsied what's in her spinal cord or what's in her shoulder, I think she has a terminal cancer. And if she were less severely affected, I would say, maybe we could try some medications to make her comfortable. But she's so severely affected and she's on all the medications that are, easily done. Such that, as much as I hate to say it, my best advice to you based on this information would be to put her to sleep. And I don't mean you have to make that decision right here, right now, but I think that if you're not there, I would encourage you to try to get there sooner rather than later, because I think that she is, I don't toss the word suffering around very often, but I do think that, she wasn't eating. Is she still eating okay?
She's eating
If she wasn't eating, it would be, I think, a much easier decision.
Yeah.
Because she's still eating, I don't think is enough to say that it's, anything other than probably the best thing for her.
What does it cost to do that here? If we were to want to come back here and do it instead of our other vet?
Yeah.
Y'all are just much nicer and more caring. I don't want to go back there for this.
Right. So I don't know off the top of my head. Some of it depends. I mean, the euthanasia itself is not very costly. It's probably more about what do you have done with her body. If you had her cremated, especially if you wanted to receive her ashes back, that's where things can go up by a few $100s. If you took her body with you to either take her to another crematorium or to have her buried, then it's,
I don't want to bury her. I want to cremate her. I want her to go everywhere with me for the rest of my fucking life. I don't want to bury her.
Okay, baby.
I understand it, and I didn't mean that you should make that decision.
No, we usually bury our pets, but I don't want to do this with her because
Okay.
we're not going to be living at the house we're at forever, and I want her to go with me.
Okay, baby.
I'm sorry, guys.
couple days with her. Like,
So you're giving her gabapentin, you're giving her,
prednisone, gabapentin. She's getting pens and AC for her stomach. Tylenol.
are you giving her straight Tylenol, or are you giving her Tylenol with codeine?
It's just straight Tylenol. It's acetaminophen from the store.
Okay,
So
just
doctor-
over the counter, okay. Yeah, if you're getting that over the counter, then there's definitely no codeine in it.
Yeah. Not that-
So codeine is one thing that could be added.
Okay.
I think that you gotta be careful though, if you give her medications that, sedate her too much, that, it could put her over the top. Granted, that's, how people ultimately are treated in hospice, and that's not the worst thing in the world, but you don't really want her to, suffocate, because of where this lesion is, she's gonna be mentally aware
Yeah.
in all likelihood. But yeah, she could get worse with her
I
breathing,
can see that because she's not sleeping. Like, she felt like she hasn't slept in 6 weeks. Like, she'll sleep for a few minutes and then she's just staring at the wall awake all the time.
Yeah.
I just want to make her more comfortable so I can just have another day with her.
Of course. We could, and I'm not pushing you, but I just wanna make sure you know that it is a distinct option, that we could put her to sleep here this afternoon if you wanted to. She already has an IV. I'm not saying that's a reason to make that decision. Again, I want you to be ready.
I just don't want her to suffer any longer, but I want to spend
I
a little
understand.
more time
I
with her.
understand. All right, well, why don't we do this? We can dispense some codeine for her, which we can give her. I can't dispense that much just because it's a controlled substance and we're not allowed to, but I can get enough for a few days for it. It's also expensive without Tylenol. And you can give that in conjunction with,
If I could just get one day with her, like maybe bring her back tomorrow and put her down or something. I just want one more day with her.
I understand.
Oh God, I can't believe this is happening.
So you'd want to receive her ashes back if she were,
Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to afford to do that here, but
okay. Well, what I was just thinking is we could, I never know that part of it off the top of my head, but we could put that together so you at least have an idea.
That would be great, thank you.
Okay.
I know the cheapest option is gonna be taking her home and just going from there. I don't wanna just keep her body around though. I wanna figure it out quick, but I've just spent $3,000 on this. Now I have no more money left, so I'm like, I just wanna have the rest of the day with her and then
I understand.
tomorrow we can,
I understand. Okay.
that'd be good.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, we'll get that codeine dispensed. We'll get her IV out. She'll have a pressure band from where that IV was that you'll want to take off in about an hour. I'd hold off on feeding her for probably a couple hours. We can probably feed her as soon as 4. Just start with a small amount of food. I'm sorry. Do you want to? Oh, I brought this in here in case you wanted to see it. It's up to you. I'm
I
not
would
here.
like to see it.
Okay,
Yes, please.
okay. Well, I think sometimes seeing something like this is helpful,
I trust you, but I
especially-
do like to see it.
especially as you're making such major decisions. All right, so this image on your left here, try to imagine her on her side. So this is an image right down the middle of her neck. So her head would be up here.
Okay.
Her right shoulder would be here, her left shoulder would be here, because this is right down the middle of her neck. Top of her neck would be right here. That's a microchip causing an artifact, so that's why that looks weird. And then her spinal cord runs right through here. All this bright white shouldn't be there. All this bright white behind here shouldn't be here. And it's because of the tumor, which is really right here. It's kind of hard to make out if you've not looked at these before. But that's obstructing the flow of spinal fluid, which is why, in all likelihood, we're seeing this bright area here. But this is a cross-sectional image, which probably shows it better. So that line right there corresponds to where this image is. So that's the top of her neck here. This is muscle oil overlying her spine. That's her tracheal windpipe there. And the spinal cord is right here, and this looks pretty normal at this level because it's up here in front of the
Yeah.
tumor. As we come back, we'll start to see what shouldn't be here. This is after a contrast agent has been injected intravenously, so all of that is tumor there. There's just a little sliver of spinal cord that I can make out there, and then back to more normal there. I know we kind of lost our. So it's without question not a disc problem.
Okay.
I hoped it would have been, even though I was very worried, which you probably gathered from when we talked last
Yeah.
week.
I know it was 50-50. I mean, I've been kind of preparing myself for this. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for getting us an answer that
Is there any way we can get copies of those?
We can send you a link to it. There are a whole
That would
bunch,
be great.
I mean, there's so many images, yeah,
Yeah.
that, we used to put them on disc, but we've kind of stopped doing that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
easier to
expensive.
send away. Yeah, and those people, you know, then once they have them, they don't know what to look at, right? And so it is hard. Some people take pictures of individual images, which you could do. That'd be another thing if you wanted. Would you want to take a picture of any of that? It's up to
I don't
you.
know, we'll take the link and see.
Okay, okay, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Yeah, I'll
that.
take them and at least able to the computer, go at least one more memory with it, you know?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you, Doctor.